Kleiner Drei.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Transit Ringas. The reason why we're here today is because of you. You guys have been raising a whole lot of issues around the treatment on commuters, passengers, that you've been complaining that you are being treated badly, you've been treated unfairly, these guys don't recognize who you are, they're blah, blah, blah. There's been a lot of, as a result, you actually wanted to stop us from talking about any other issue because you said before these guys fix the treatment, we can't talk about how government supports them, we can talk about banks and all of that, but so today we're going to talk about customer treatment, we're going to talk about passenger or commuter treatment, we're going to talk about you. So what you're going to do today is that you're going to, those who are live with us, you're going to give us your sentiments. And I must say that we have received over the last month or more, we have been talking to almost 2.5 million viewers. And in the 2.5 million, of all the 50,000, there's about 50,000 comments or engagements. And all of them, a majority of them, people are talking about customer treatment. So today in the studio, we have a friend, a brother, an experienced public relations officer from the National Taxi Alliance, and Dr. Theo Malele. You know me, my name is Isaack Lesole. I'm your host, and we're going to traverse the world and the universe of commuter treatment. Dr. Malele, dumela ngwaneso.
Dumela ntate, and thanks for having me.
Dr. Malele, we're going to talk about something that commuters have raised with us for the longest time. But before we get into that, I must tell you outright that every single young person who starts working, the first thing they want to do is to buy themselves a vehicle because they want to disabuse themselves of the taxi industry. Taxi industry is transporting almost 15 million commuters every single day. And of all of that, majority of them are doing that out of absolute desperation. If they had an alternative, they would have been somewhere else. And the reason why that's the case is because of how your people treat the customers. So today we're going to get to the dark truth of this. And if you allow me, you're going to allow me to be brutally honest with you so that we get the truth out there, because the only reason we have Transit Ringas is that we exist because we are hoping we can contribute towards improving passenger or commuter experience, because as it stands now, it is really bad. So can I be honest and candid with you today? Please give me that permission.
Sure. No, by all means.
So Bafwetu, we're going to talk. I want you to understand that. So in South Africa, you have two main taxi associations. One is Santago and the other one is the National Taxi Alliance. These are the biggest. These are the employers. So anybody who's in the taxi industry, if they don't belong to these two, they don't exist. Okay? Of all the taxis that you see, whether it's Gedlemba, whether it's a Quantum, they must belong to the two. So these are the two only associations that we're going. So above this, there's nobody else. After this, the taxi industry ipelela. So this opportunity we're going to use in such a way that when we leave here, at least we've got the truth. Datemele, let's start with you. What do you do in NTA, and how long have you been here? Please take us through your brief history and what you do.
Yeah, well, thanks for the opportunity once more. Look, the background that you've given, it's nothing else but reality.
Good.
I have been in the taxi industry for over 20 years, and I've actually been in the executive of the taxi industry after my corporate years.
Right.
And ever since in actual fact, I got into the industry by default
Okay.
because my dad had a challenge with their associations. The association was just about to be deregistered by the then MEC of Transport, Khabise Musungkutu.
Perhaps.
So he then asked me if I could help look into the challenges that they were facing at the time.
Mm-hmm.
As I looked at the act, I realized that indeed they were not fit to be called an association.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to correct all the wrongs that they had found themselves in. Look, they would stand under a tree. Their offices were a little zozo with no proper facilities and stuff like that. There was no constitution. There was basically no administrative, part in this business. So we had to do all that spade work, and that actually saw me working as a member of the executive from the very get-go. And as time marched forth, I then became an executive member on a mother body, which is also a federal structure within NTA called Top 6 Taxi Management. Whilst at Top 6 or with Top 6, the country had just been awarded the 2010 Soccer World Cup bid. We then had to come up with a plan of ensuring that we promote South Africa to the multinationals that would be, coming through. So at the time, we were talking about a strategic public transport networking system, which we had actually, as an industry, realized that it was rather too complicated to get, taxi operators to understand, because you'll have to appreciate the kind of background of all these taxi people who come from different backgrounds. So the then MMC of Transport had also just been given a video on bus rapid transit systems, overseas. So she shared that video with us. And after having done that, we realized that, elsewhere people were doing pretty good. And we needed to try and copy what these people were doing to try and see if we cannot, benchmark South Africa to the multinationals. So it was through our own patriotism that we ventured into that. We then took that concept to the executive members, who were somewhat a little bit lost with the whole concept, but they gave us a mandate to go look at that BRT systems abroad. We went to Latin America. We checked on that in quite a number of places. We came back. We stayed a bit in Madrid, in Spain, where we designed the current business model of the BRT system. And then ever since then, I ran workshops to get people of the industry to understand the concept of the BRT system and how we intend transforming the taxi industry for the upcoming Soccer Spectacular. So, yeah, we were there, and I was then subsequently appointed to become the national spokesperson of the NTA. I think it was probably through my talkative, nature, that they saw this in me. And I took that on the chin, and I said, fine, let's do it. And I gave it all my best, which is why we're here today.
I just want to double click on this because khona abantu abadelelayo la, every time when we speak to viewers about the taxi industry, and we use English as a medium. And everybody concludes that you are talking to yourself because these people don't even know what you're talking about. I am deliberate. I've allowed you to speak for that for this long because I wanted people to pick up how comfortable you are that you're a person who comes from corporate. You're a spokesperson because you are capable. And here you are, you speak English. So Nina lap, Nina. I'm going to you telling our people that abazwa next. I don't know what that means, but abazwa next lavant lava. Ukhuluma one lap when Isaac. But for those of us who are able to sit with you and have the comfort of at least sit with you in an executive office, people don't know that we sit and converse in English very comfortably. So there's a perception that has been created that a taxi industry is only, operated by fools, by people who don't know anything. And I'm hoping that this discussion is going to solve that problem, because we have degraded the industry for far too long, and we did not give them the credit. And we have seen the industry through the eyes of other people. We've not had the opportunity where the industry speaks for itself. So the opportunity is here now. So stay there. Stay there. Whether you speak Zulu, you speak Tswana, here is English from London in the studio. In the studio. So I wanted to get to these people. I've always wanted an opportunity because they have characterized the industry so badly and poorly. And I think this is a beautiful start. So Pierre, I want us to start on something very, very important. Because in the industry, so the stakeholder matrix, there's a driver, there's an owner, and there's a commuter. So there is an employer, there's an employee, and there's a customer. All of us, we interact. So maybe before we get to that, let's say National Taxi Alliance, together with Santaco, these associations are associations of employers. And therefore, every other person who belongs to an association, who's a member of an association, can only be a member of an association if they themselves, in their own right, are an employer.
And hold a operating license.
So this then means that the people that we interact with every day, in effect, these people are just employees. Can we agree on that?
No. That's very true. I think we need to debunk this myth that taxi drivers are taxi operators.
Yeah.
Taxi operators are taxi owners.
Yeah.
And by virtue of that, they belong to associations. But there are requirements, obviously, that they would have joined a particular association,
right,
and maybe paid a joining fee,
right,
to be in that association. And they would have applied and been issued with a valid operating license.
right.
And that operating license would speak on the geographical route network,
right,
where they can only traverse. And if they were to go beyond those borders, only then that law enforcement authorities would step in and chastise them for that.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. So for you at home, please understand that the person that you interact with every day is an employee. So the behavior of the employee does not automatically reflect the behavior of the owner. and I think it's an important thing, that what we see is not a representation of the employees. As a matter of fact, if you want to know, yes, there are employers that would be at work at the taxi rank, but others only come to meetings. If you are not in the operational structure, if you're not, so there are people that are operating the business every day that will be at the rank to see how things are happening. But the rest of the others, because an association can have 1,000 people, can have 2,000 people, not all of them will be there. They'll probably have 10 or so people who are at the rank to just. Now, let's talk about this, Theo. Do you guys have a hold? These employees of yourselves, do you guys have a hold on them? Are you able to say, Isaac, I got a complaint about you. You are treating people badly, you are doing this, you're doing that, you're doing that. And on the basis of that, I am going to remove you, or you are not going to be my employee anymore, or I am going to take an action. Do you have something like that? Do you have a disciplinary code? How do we deal with these drivers? Because we're going to have to talk about these drivers at some point.
Yeah, look, I think at first we should talk about the guiding document that holds the association together, which is a constitution.
Cool.
In the constitution, you would also have, the executive, who are responsible for the daily running of the association.
Mm-hmm.
They have their different duties and responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And the executives will then appoint a transport manager who would then be responsible for the fleets or operation.
Mm-hmm.
And within these executives, you would also have a disciplinary committee. That disciplinary committee, its function is precisely to look at all the misdemeanors, either by the taxi operators or by the drivers. We have a toll-free number at the National Taxi Alliance, which I normally give out, which
Please
is
do.
0800 113322.
Repeat it again.
0800 113322.
Mm-hmm.
So as and when people call that number, they get assisted. What we basically expect from our passengers is that as and when they have been aggrieved, they should please bear with us to ensure that we get the registration of the vehicle, the route on which this vehicle was traveling,
Mm-hmm.
and if possible, the sticker of that association. Normally, the stickers would be at the rear window depicting the name of the association. And there probably would also be another sticker either in the front, windshield, or on the side of the vehicle. So, and give us the nature, the description of that, misdemeanor.
Mm-hmm.
So what we then do, we will then filter that through to the respective association, to the disciplinary chairperson.
Mm-hmm.
They normally sit once a week to look at all these issues that relates to bad treatment from passengers by customers, or even internal feuds between two owners. So that's basically what they do. There is that body
Mm-hmm.
that looks after that. Now, drivers are employed by individual operators.
Right.
Perhaps the criteria of recruitment and selection may differ from one owner to the other,
Mm-hmm.
but the basic fundamentals would be that they should possess a driver's license. They should also possess a PDP,
Mm-hmm.
professional driving permit.
Mm-hmm.
Although this PDP, to me, it means nothing. There is nothing professional about it.
Mm-hmm.
It does not prepare these guys to become the good servants of the people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a token that they actually pay money and they get.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, they don't even, they lack even the skills to communicate properly with the commuters, and also to behave correctly on the road. But look, let's look at it this way. Perhaps if we were to be given mobility as an industry, things would change. Like for an example, between Soweto and the city of Johannesburg, there was that medium transit route that was used previously by the taxis, called Pattern Butter.
Okay.
That was a dedicated lane for taxis. So the turnaround time of taxis had improved drastically.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what now happened is that after the introduction of the BRT into that township, that route was taken away from the taxis and then given to the buses. I think that was very much unfair on the side of government to have done so.
Okay.
So they should have at least given taxis a transit route maybe on the shoulder of the road.
Okay.
They did it before whilst constructing that BRT route. They could have actually kept on with that. I mean, we also know that along Empire Road in the morning, you would have dedicated lanes strictly for buses, just to improve the turnaround of the commuting masses. But today, that is not the case. Maybe we need to revisit all the strategies in order to try and improve the service of the passengers.
I like that. I want to take you back a little bit. There's something that I want to double click on. Is that you are saying that PDP, so PDP is a professional driving permit.
Supposed to be.
It is a permit that every person who is transporting people for a reward, for a fee, is supposed to have. So your taxi driver, your Uber driver, your bus driver, any other person who is transporting people for a fee is supposed to have that. Now, what I'm hearing here is that you guys as viewers and us collectively as commuters or riders, we are complaining about the treatment that we receive. These people are paying money to government, and yet government does not use this system that they have to prepare an individual. So you are sitting with somebody who is supposedly a professional driver, but who knows nothing other than just going to Langlaagte and being able to drive. And mind you, a PDP, you first get a driver's license for whatever code you prefer. And then you go for a second training of some sort where you get a professional driving permit. And yet we are complaining here. I want us to focus on that. So I'm hearing you to be saying that until that process of professionalizing, it is designed in such a way that the person who's now given the responsibility, you certify them to be a professional driver so they know what is customer care. Yeah. You are saying, as the National Taxi Alliance, that if government had done that correctly, you are saying that we would not have the number of complaints on treatment, the GBV cases that we're having, and all of the problems that we have. Is that your position?
That is the position, and plus again the vetting of drivers.
Cool.
We've been talking to government, asking that we be given at least an opportunity to vet drivers as we recruit them. But this plea has fallen on deaf ears. So we end up even, recruiting people that may not necessarily be suitable for the job.
Yeah.
But because, we do not have our ducks in a row, we would know, So we bring them into our employment only to come and mess up the whole industry.
So colleagues, I want us to understand this, that people would think that every time we are fighting with government, but this is what the industry is saying, and this is not only NTA, by the way. The industry has spoken about this before, and I know that NTA has raised these issues very, very sharply. Here we are. There's a perception out there that you guys as employers, you deliberately go out there and get people that are war ready. They say the perception is that you deliberately, and the people are saying that you don't want your drivers to be vetted because you want them with those criminal records. You want them to be war ready and trigger happy because the environment is volatile. You yourselves have not communicated this very, very well, I think, as an industry, to say, actually, you're looking for professional drivers. Because everybody is now thinking, no. You are happy with the ones that you have because you know that the abatati nonsense, and that's how they are branded. Can we correct this? This is your camera. Can we correct it and say that as the NTA, you have raised the issues on professional driving and then the vetting of the drivers, and why did you feel that was necessary? Please speak to the viewers directly.
Look, we've raised this on more than one occasion, even during our marches. One of our grievances has always been that of the vetting of drivers. But there is yet another success story that we, as the NTA, did. If you remember, there was a case of rape and murder in the Dobsonville area. So, purportedly by one of the taxi drivers who left their employment, but we actually, they went and sought employment elsewhere. We were able to can spot them, and we notified the authorities, and that guy was apprehended. So, and the same applies to the issue of the North Street miniskirt.
Yeah.
We have distanced ourselves from that from the very get-go. We do not ascribe to that. We abhor that by all means.
Cool.
So we have spoken about the professionalization of the drivers and the industry. It's just that the government has not been fully supporting the taxi industry. I mean, look, government's responsibility is to ensure that its citizenry moves from point A to point B. And currently, that is not the issue. Yes, we appreciate that we've inherited all this from the then apartheid, era. And also, if you remember, in the late 80s, there was a Welgemoot Commission that's set primarily to ensure that the taxi industry gets deregulated in an effort of trying to get the taxi operators at each other's throat. But, it is funny that, during oppression time, we were able to speak in one voice. We could understand each other. But immediately after transitioning into democracy, I think the wheels started falling off. I think something very, very sinister must have taken place there. You would remember that we would say azukwelwa. We would all leave our employment on a Friday, and our employers would not be knowing what our intentions were, only to realize on Monday that none of us were there. There was that unity of purpose. And I think we lost that. We lost that grip, and we need to try and get ourselves back to that space. And the only way of doing that is through education. And look, we can only do that if we are able to can do a needs analysis within the industry, and also vetting the drivers, knowing very well who we attract into the industry, so that we also follow suit with sectoral determinations, do your workmen's compensations, your UIF as well. Ensure that this is proper employment, which is something that we currently working on. And I think the biggest other issue is that of the cash that's easily available within the taxi industry. That it's a problem in the following sense. One, law enforcement agencies, they tend to stop taxis at ungodly hours, knowing very well that these are cash cows.
Mm.
And number two, taxi drivers drive recklessly in an effort of trying to make a
More money.
quick turnaround,
Yeah.
so that they can make more money, And we don't condone all of those. If the industry were to be supported accordingly, we would then be able to can compete with all these other public transport modes.
Mm.
If, for an example, the taxi industry being the majority public transport mover, we are of the view that the passenger needs to be subsidized, so that it then becomes the passenger's prerequisite as to which mode of transport to utilize on a particular date along a particular corridor. Whether they hop into a bus, step into a taxi, or get into a train.
Cool.
Using an integrated ticketing system. I think the leadership is more than ready. All that we now need is support from government side to ensure that this then becomes at least regulated into law, that let's now move cash from the taxi industry. Look, South Africa is still in the third, it's actually phantoming the third industrial revolution, and yet when the world is already on the fifth industrial revolution, we're talking AI.
Right.
And you still have the majority of South Africans who don't even have a clue about digitization. So whose responsibility is that? Obviously, it's this government. I think government must start smoking a different pipe.
Now, I like it because people have been they've been insulting us here. They've been insulting us to say that, okay, we're not holding the industry accountable. Every time when we speak about government. You are raising very serious issues. A week and a half ago, the minister was in Cape Town. And one of the statements after, visiting the site there, the minister said that it is about time that the industry starts operating like a business. It made headlines. The minister believes that you are non-competitive. Maybe because of the things that you guys have done also. You've been found wanting on a number of things. I mean, we had a lady in studio sitting where you're sitting, who came from Vosloorus, says that at Chris Hani Mall, taxis aligned to NTA in Vosloorus, literally your patrollers, because you need to talk about the patrollers as well. They go around there, remove people as if they don't have the constitutional right. And the industry is not, we know that you've been talking about it, but you're not firm on these issues. Can we correct this today? Can we speak to the patrollers about this kind of behavior? Because this is business, was the minister okay to say, one, you guys must start operating like a business? I'm aware that she didn't say what should the government do, because there's a role that government needs to be. And viewers, I want us to understand this. And this is an important fact. That Theo said earlier, that the movement of people back and forth, especially economically active individuals, is a responsibility of government. So we should not get that twisted. Under no circumstances, nowhere in the world where we call a system public transport and government does not pay for it. None. So all developing economies, government takes the responsibility. In South Africa, 80% of the people that are economically active are dependent on private individuals who are taxi owners. And I think I want you to understand that. they are dependent on individuals who took their pension money, bought a vehicle, and joined an association, got an operating license, and deployed their vehicle. Government is not doing anything, and yet government is subsidizing the buses, is subsidizing the trains that are only contributing less than 10% of the moving public every day. So when we accuse the industry, we must accuse it with an understanding that they have taken the biggest responsibility and government is comfortably sitting back and just regulating something. And you are saying today, Brathiu, that this position and posture of government, and just give instructions, you can't do this, you can't do this, and not support you, is the reason why you have so many unroadworthy vehicles, or at least it contributes towards that.
Yeah, look, there are a number of factors. Obviously, the lack of support from government will be one of those problems. But what is also, or rather, the lack of support from government is but an impediment, because these new vehicles that we are supposed to be buying, they, after repayment, we end up paying R1 million for a quantum. You may pop out a 50 or 60,000 rands deposit, and you have to pay now 18,000 rands every month for 5 to 6 years, and at times 7 years. And by the time you reach the 5th year with that car, it's already a wreck. But I think that there are other underlying factors from unscrupulous retailers who use a certain instrument called a route calculator that is used to determine the viability of a route. And most of the time, this gets concocted to ensure that you end up getting that credit. It actually boosts your credit score.
Yeah.
And not taking into account the actual reality on the ground, which is why you see a lot of people, they buy a new vehicle 6 months down the line, that car has been repossessed. Now, these other unscrupulous retailers, they would take that vehicle, repurpose it, resell it again as a new vehicle to an unsuspecting taxi operator. This is happening. It's happening. There is the issue of infrastructure, poor infrastructure. These cars have to traverse on potholes, on the gravel road, and the maintenance of these vehicles becomes very, very heavy. And obviously, it does not hit on the driver's pocket. It hits on the owner's pocket. Some 4 years or so ago, the University of Johannesburg conducted a research on the revenue streams of the taxi industry, and they discovered that 40% of the revenue stays behind with the drivers. But I personally did a study, physically that is, between Olivenhout-Bosch and the Mall of Africa. We were testing we were doing a proof of concept on an electronic fare collection. On a daily, those people were taking home between 500 and 600 rands. But as soon as we got there, things changed. There was one elderly gentleman who said to me that they were not in a position to understand technology, so they don't have a clue of what this was. I inquired if they had a child, and yeah, they had a child. They brought in a daughter of theirs. We explained this to her, and after having understood the concept, she went home, ensured that they were all ready. We took about 30 vehicles. So we did that route. That very gentleman, for the very first time, he took home 2,500 rands. the list got 8,500 from those 30 operators. And we know why that money was 1,500 is because they had not filled in the fuel before we started with that project.
Right.
So we ran that for a period of over a month and realized that there is a lot of money, but there has been resistance from the drivers, which we expected.
Understandably. Yeah.
We expected.
Yeah.
So now what we have now done, we've repackaged this whole approach to have a driver incentive package, whereat we should be able to can use that as a carrot for them to follow suit. Now, what is key here is that the operator understands that they are going to make money, and it is them that have employed this person. So it is up to them to impress upon these drivers that this is what we need to be doing. Because as an individual, you would not be able to can speak to the driver. The driver will only listen to whoever got them, their employment.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the challenge. And then on the other hand, the passengers do have an incentive, and it's that, should they be involved in an accident, they will actually get, a death cover, and there would be we're talking to other retailers to get them concessions on certain items. Yeah, and the same, as I said, to drivers as well, in trying to get them to buy into this. But that's not an easy one. I mean, you can imagine, I said guys were taking between 500 and 600 rands, and just out of the blue, they were taking 2,500.
Rand.
So this then means that how much more than 40% has been remaining with drivers. There are other associations where the owners are actually being borrowed money by the drivers. And that's disingenuous. This is the only business, like they say in Afrikaans, ter wereld, where an employee controls the finances of the employer.
Yeah. So I guess sure. But this is insightful for us. So I'll take a few steps back because I want us to move somewhere. The driver is a powerful stakeholder in the value chain, but they are more powerful when they are a collective. But in front of you, as the employer, you dictate the terms. So when you come to my house to give me the 800 rand or the 500 rand to check in, or when I employ you, I am able to enter into an arrangement with you that says that here, this is how things are done. Why is it that, because this is exactly what we asked earlier on, the passengers are saying, you guys as the owners, you've lost control of the drivers. I mean, you've lost it. If you've lost it with your finances, how do you think you can control it with the customer? Because I think this is where the weakness of the industry is. And until we are able to deal with that weakness, we will not be able to improve passenger experience. And I must say this on record, that there are drivers that are really doing a sterling job, that are very, very respectful, that are even protecting. I mean, there are passengers inside a taxi that will be abusive to their but there are drivers who will stop on the side of the road and say that not in my vehicle. And we have not spoken about those drivers. We've not spoken about those success stories. And maybe we should use this opportunity to encourage all of them, to say that if you are a driver out there, those people that you're carrying behind you, you've been told before, that these are the only people that you have that are giving you that revenue. But the way you've been treating them is really appalling. But thank you to those who have really taken care of these passengers. Thank you for those that have respected them and treated them with all the requisite dignity. Because in public transport, in the taxis in particular, dignity is not a currency. It does not exist. In fact, when you use a taxi today, you are seen by definition, by distance. As you walk into North, you are just one of the poor people. And that is the characterization that is very unfortunate for you guys that are responsible for 15 million people every day. But having said that, now we understand where your pain points are. And unfortunately, Theo, you have entrusted this very driver that you don't know, that you've not vetted, some of them out of prison, straight out into the industry. And I'm not saying that people that are out of prison should not be given an opportunity. There are people that are being rehabilitated that comes into that space. But they come into your space, you entrust them with that R1 million value of an asset. You entrust them with the only asset you have, that is the customer, and they mistreat that customer. And this cannot be the responsibility of government. This part is your responsibility. Government can only augment by making sure that when you guys declare, because you as the employer, you must declare that I have now employed Isaac. Isaac is now going to drive my vehicle RG05GP. And then Isaac is now on the system, is known as a driver who works for this. But for now, drivers are jumping from one vehicle to the other. They move from Mkonazi and go to Mkize. So we are not able to trace them. Even if they were bad today, they can still be bad tomorrow in a different vehicle. How do you deal with this?
Yeah, it's true. We don't have a retention strategy,
right?
As an industry of keeping especially the co-drivers. But we would try. Look, like I said, on a weekly basis, DC committees, disciplinary committees of different associations will deal with all customer complaints that have been phoned through. Look, it's well and good to have all these challenges, but if you don't report them, then we would not know about them. Look, like the same applies to that of marshals pulling people out of the cars. That's sheer criminality. That's an act of criminality that must be reported to the police. Cool. We do not condone that,
right. Right.
And everything that relates to bad customer service has to be reported. That 0800 113322 number, it's there for a purpose. There are people who've called us and made us aware of the challenges that they faced. We have helped them. They can actually bear testimony. And I have personally dealt with them. Not that I have referred this to any other person. Those calls come through me, and I ensure that I take them through to the relevant associations where this thing had happened. And I speak to the seniors there to say, please see to it that this matter gets resolved. And believe you me, in executive meetings, people may think that we are not passenger-centric, but we do talk about ways and means of improving our services. We would encourage operators to ensure that their car seats are covered properly. We ensure passengers that the tires are not smooth. Vehicles do not have excessive smokes, and windshields are intact. We encourage people to do that, but that is as far as we can go. But then your biggest problem is that of law enforcement agencies who lack the appetite of ensuring that there is law and order in the country.
Or in fact, maybe not even lack appetite. They have monetized that weakness. They have monetized that because they have the drive. I had JMPD here, and I put it to them, and I told them that you guys look out for vulnerable vehicles. You can see that one is, and you go for them because that's where you get your cash. As a result, there are drivers who leave home knowing exactly that my vehicle is not roadworthy, but I just need to have 100 rand of the 20 rands that I'm going to be splashing around so these kind of vulnerabilities have created revenue uh, havens, pockets. And everyone is benefiting from them. There are people that are benefiting from specifically the JMPD or the traffic officers, as if we're talking national here, not only Joburg. With permits in the Department of Transport, there are people that are benefiting from issuing and expediting. So there are pockets everywhere because the industry has created, it's a cash intensive kind of an environment. And maybe at this stage, I must say that the public protector officially, and I'm saying it on record, the public protector has now accepted our request or complaint that all government officials must be investigated who are weaponizing the system to victimize the industry, and not only the taxi industry. So the pockets there in the Department of Transport, and it's not only in Gauteng, it's in Gauteng, it's in the Eastern Cape, it's in other. We know of all of these things, and it is now official that the public protector is going to be investigating all of these things because we told you that we will come for you. We told you that you've weaponized the opposition as a government official. Your time is up. You're going to be investigated. And as a matter of fact, we have also opened criminal cases against officials of government. We will go to court and remove all of those that are under investigation now, especially those in the provincial regulatory entities across. They must be held accountable. So it is now official. I would, by the end of today, I'm going to sit back here and show you a letter from the public protector to say that we're now coming for you because you've taken advantage of the industry for far too long. And we're going to make sure that all of you are removed from the system. You don't even qualify to preside on any other decision from today until these investigations are over because you have taken advantage of people. Similarly, the police, the industry has been at war for the longest time. People are not arrested. People are not prosecuted. I know that the public protector has officially written to the national commissioner and say that we want a report on all of those people. And this is us. This is from us as Transit Ringas to say that we will stand for both sides. So it means, Theo, when we have to fight with you, we want to be able to come with you, but we must come with you with facts.
Sure.
And tell you that, but your people are doing this in this area. Can you please attend to that? But for you drivers, you still have a chance to change. It's not too late. The industry is changing. Unfortunately, industrial revolution or artificial intelligence is here. Digitization is here. It's no more your choice. So it's not you pushing or insulting us online that's going to... Change is coming. It's unfortunate. You can scream all you want. You can show us the signs of guns that you have. It doesn't matter. The change is coming. And it's going to be brought by a cell phone, not by a person. And that cell phone will be everywhere in your vehicle, and there's nothing you're going to do about it. So the best thing you can do for yourself is just to be an honorable person and do your work diligently. Theo, what do you want to say to the industry as your closing remarks?
Look, to the industry, I think before even going there,
Yeah,
we have one government,
cool.
but we have certain provinces that behave, not that are not in line with all other provinces. Look, in the Gauteng province, taxi operators are treated in a particular way.
Right.
In KZN, for an example, even your oldest combis, they still get operating license. There is no car that is operating in KZN without an operating license.
Beautiful.
And in Gauteng, there is a deadlock, and it's been there for the longest of times. And we've also got to learn that getting an operating license, the application goes through not less than 26 people. And in that process, anything is
Exchanging hands.
exchanging hands, and there are no quality control measures within the system. So the likelihood of things to be concocted is very great.
Sure.
As you can see with the current, conflicting associations,
Right.
where some of the permits were bought at weekends and stuff like that. It's as a result of that. You get to the Northwest Province. The Northwest Province, it's actually trying to push people to belong to a particular association, as if there is a statutory body in the country that is responsible for the taxis. And the same applies to the Northern Cape and the Free State. I mean, these are parts and parcel of South Africa, but they behave as if they are nowhere near South Africa.
Right.
So they too must be investigated.
Okay, I got that.
And to the industry, I must say, in actual fact, we're losing passengers. Yes, I understand that the youth will want to buy a vehicle as a status symbol, but most of the time, we actually force them to end up going that route because of this thing in the morning. They may be busy with their assignments on the cell phones. We'll be giving them money, expect them to become the cashiers in the taxi. Today's commuter, it's no longer the same as the commuter of yesterday. So we need to respect the commuters. You look at the market share of the taxi industry, it's shrinking on a daily basis. It's primarily because of not being, customer service centric.
Right. Right.
So we need to look after the customers. We know that we have, deep pockets from the Silver Lakes that have actually encroached into the public transport space in a disruptive manner. We too must come up with a disruptive way of ensuring that our services are at par with world standards. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. So you got it now. You hear it directly from the National Taxi Alliance Public Relations Officer, Mr. Theo Malele, who graced our studio to come and talk about the truth that you guys have been wanting to hear. So no patroller has got a right. If the patroller does what they do, removing you out of vehicles, please report it. We need the registration number. We need the association that they belong to. We need that. Similarly, we need the drivers, the registration number of the. You don't have to know the driver. Just give us the registration number of that vehicle. We can check it against the association. We can check it against the e-NATIS. We can check it everywhere. But please, things that are supposed to be reported to the police, let them go to the police, because there are things that you bring to us that are supposed to be going to the police. But don't forget that the efforts of the industry, I mean, for instance, nobody has spoken about the efforts of the National Taxi Alliance. There's a toll-free number that you are supposed to be using to complain. But you have decided, because you thought nobody cares, to mind your business and be quiet even when you get a bad treatment. That's the reason why we're in this trouble. Your voice is going to recreate the industry and give us a better industry for tomorrow. So it is our opportunity now to say that we can no longer be quiet. Mind that. We can no longer be quiet. You will be protected. We're going to talk about this issue deeper and deeper with time. But for today, I appreciate the fact that you were here, and my live viewers, thank you very much for being here today. This is an ongoing, the developing story. We're going to be talking about customer care, commuter treatment for the longest time, because that's the reason why we're here. And we'll continue to engage the industry, because remember that the people that we're talking to are the employers. We will come to the employees at some point, but we understand that the employees themselves, they also need to be helped. But start behaving. Start behaving. From me to you, Light and peace. Isaack Lesole, I'm out until we meet in the next episode. Thank you. Peace.
Yo, en het rijdt.